Smith. She's the owner of Smith and Hannon. And for those of you that don't know, she was down at the National Underground Freedom Center for several years, and they decided to use her space to sell t-shirts, cups, and mugs. So luckily, she's here, and so I hope you all have a chance to just browse around, talk to Joyce a little bit more. She can special order books for you. I know we all have access to Amazon. We all have access to other opportunities to bring books into our lives, but if it's something that you want to get a hold of, but you're not going to read it for a while, maybe she can special order it, and we can keep a thriving bookstore here in, well, at least our part of Over-the-Rhine. I mean, I know there's Iris, but that's a lot of used books and everything too. So thank you all for being here today. I think you all know, most of you know my backstory, that this book was based on my blog that I kept over a number of years about my mom, who developed dementia about 10 years prior. And so this was an opportunity to just document her life, the blog was, and as I started caregiving for her more, I realized I was learning in the process of also caregiving, and so I felt like it was important information to share. And then when my mom passed away, so it's been about a year and a half now, the executive director at Arden Courts, which is where my mom lived, approached me and said, we think this has value as a resource for prospective family members, for people that are family members of loved ones that are currently residing here at Arden Courts. And it wasn't really on my radar at all. But as soon as she told me that, I thought, of course, this is why I've been doing this. Not because, I knew this was going to be a book all along, but just it was basically the universe or my mom going, hello, you didn't sit with me all those years, and I didn't sit with you all those years for this to all come to nothing. So I guess it was my mom's opportunity to maybe have her say in some of this too. So she's captured in here, not as much as I wished I could have, as I was explaining to some of you. I was working with my editor. There was so much more we could have said about the topic of dementia and caregiving and our loved ones, but we wanted this to be a book that could be as light as possible for a subject that was as serious as it is, and as challenging as it can be. But we also wanted to highlight a lot of the beautiful moments that occurred between my mom and I, and that can occur between so many other people. So I'm going to get started with some reading, and one of the passages that I picked out for today is really about when I talked to Joyce about having a book signing here. One of the things that Joyce said to me, she said, not a lot of people know that I'm here. And I said, well, I know some people in Over-the-Rhine, and they're all great people. They're amazing. They're connected into the neighborhood in some way, shape, or form, and maybe we can just start by raising some awareness and bring her in, because I want Joyce to know the amazing community that we've all come to love and be a part of. And so the piece that I'm going to start by reading today is a little bit on that theme of community and what it means to be a part of something bigger than yourself. I just have to find it. Let's see. Okay. Okay. I love this because this feels like I'm really just reading all of this. I haven't sat on a couch to read to somebody here. So just context for this, it's Ash Wednesday, and I've just walked into my mother's care home, and they've been watching a short video about old Burma Shave ads, and we've been waiting on the spiritual director. The spiritual director, Pastor Jeff, showed up at 3-ish for Ash Wednesday services after braving thinning snow squalls and close to zero wind chill temperatures. We both won bonus points toward our salvation that afternoon. Peeling off his stiff coat, the pastor walked into a room full of willing and not so willing, because they kept forgetting, participants to share in the glory of the Lenten season against the backdrop of crepe paper Easter eggs strung from the ceiling and fuzzy bunnies positioned as table centerpieces. With his long, knobby fingers, the pastor shook hands and greeted each resident by name. For the most part, he recalled the names of family members. I glanced around and was surprised to discover I knew the residents by name as well. We had formed a family, sort of. It was a blend of workmates and family. Workmates because when I arrived to visit my mother, while the visit could be pleasurable, I never tricked myself into believing it would be all pleasure. There were many painful and embarrassing moments with my mother or with other residents, such as when Harold yanked his pants down and waddled into the restroom. It was work to feel what Harold could not and keep from laughing at him. Workmates because I spent many hours talking with other residents' family members, swapping stories about loved ones who used to be garage mechanics, or military officers who could still recite the names of their commanders. I was the sieve through which the essence of a loved one's life was distilled. Workmates because acquainting myself with the staff and their families as they knew mine was relationship building, and relationships took intention and attention. Pastor Jeff delivered an on-point, audience-specific sermon and included a focus on thankfulness. He opened the floor for residents to speak of gratitude. Responses came flowing out of what a stranger might consider an invisible bounty. The sun and wind, a youthful Peggy said. Snow, said Harold, seated with his eyes closed. Residents were still moved by the forces that existed outside of their bodies and minds. My mother noted the peeling wallpaper border and a Mardi Gras mask hanging on the wall left over from a party. That on the wall, she said with pride. It was her contribution. One resident, Carmel, spoke out from the rubber seat of her transport chair. Each other. That's right, Pastor Jeff extended his long arms as if scooping everyone into them. We take care of each other. We are family. We are all family here. Balding and graying and sleeping heads nodded. Yes, family, because residents and loved ones looked out for one another. A great joy of mine came from observing residents, how they treated each other, a touch on the arm, a sharing of a cooked carrot, encouragement to walk to the salon with no idea where they were going. Family because other families offered my mother bits of chocolate or escorted her to her room, or vice versa. I helped locate the suede slippers of a family member's dad. My engagement gave help to the family who was not there, and also to the staff, attending to someone else in need when that someone else could easily be my mother. Family because I bought lunch from Chipotle for staff as a thank you on each of my mother's anniversaries of her move, and pressed dozens of the official family cookie pizzelles for her birthday parties, which included all the residents plus a Sinatra impersonator. She did not receive better care because I bribed the staff. Instead, thank yous went a long way in boosting morale, so staff operated at their best for all residents. The pastor made his rounds to distribute ashes. I brushed my mother's bangs to the same side as mine. With his thumb, the pastor smudged ashes across each of our foreheads, and my mother smeared the charcoal powder immediately after its application, sensing she was not quite ready to join the applied dust. I wasn't ready for her to do so either. Following services, my mother settled back into her chair, reading and toying with the hymnal. I fixed myself a cup of coffee and, having skipped lunch, sat back down and munched on her bag of post-activity snack, Lay's potato chips. Jack, a younger resident with Parkinson's disease, pushed his walker close to me. Chip? I held out the bag and shook the contents free. No, I just came to ask if it's really cold outside. He stroked his scraggly beard, and I sensed worry. I don't know if my guests will arrive. I'm sure they will. It's not that bad, unless you're from Kentucky. My audience wouldn't get the joke that Kentucky drivers in southern Ohio were always cutting me off as I drove in the snow. He pursed his lips and grinned a bit when I spoke. As a family member and workmate, I had watched a movie and sung with the sing-alongs in my flat tone. I had also checked off church services to fulfill my yearly obligation outside of Christmas and Easter. I was productive and efficient. Only one final item to check off. I scooted my chair beneath the long table with its collage of colorful boxes of Monopoly and Outburst to play the game of life alongside Jack, and eased into my place at the family table of care. Oh.